If you're still moving, you ain't going to be dead. Ozzy, let
If you're still moving, you ain't gonna be dead.
me start with you. How are you? You've been through all this hell. Well, I finally had my...
Before Ozzy, there was no such thing as Ozzy. There never was an Ozzy before. There's not going to be another Ozzy later.
But Ozzy, let me start with you. How are you? You've been through all this health hell.
I've finally had my last procedure.
My last procedure 2 days ago. I can't believe I've come to the end of it. I'm still back up. The main thing is over now. I'm done with the surgery, but it's been 5 years of absolute hell for me and the family. Now, my family have been so supportive to me. You know, I couldn't have done it without them. It's been really a bad scene. I have Parkinson's, but I never think about it. Just a few weeks before Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, passed away, his family had their final conversation on live television. It was an unforgettable moment, not just because of Ozzy's appearance, but also because of the signs that foreshadowed an inevitable tragedy. On the show Piers Morgan Uncensored, Ozzy shared about the painful years and his ongoing battle with his health, things that the public had never known before. Ozzy could, for the last time, express his thoughts before succumbing to his final pain. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest misconception, is like, so many people think, you know, what's happened with Dad over the last 5 years is a result of, like, Parkinson's. But it was the neck injury and the fall that he took in 19. Right. Well, actually, I was going to talk about this because, in fact, it goes back even further, doesn't it? We'll come to the Parkinson's in a moment, Ozzy. But if you go back, it actually goes back to when you had that horrendous quad bike crash in 2003. Yeah. Well, I did. I just got up and carried on, but I had a broken, sort of, in my neck. Yeah. And I carried on working with it until I had that fall, and then everything came undone, you know. Going back to that ATV crash at your estate in England, take me through what you remember from that day. Okay. I was in Los Angeles, and I was working there and I get the phone call that Ozzy is in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. What I remember, we were filming a show of the Osbournes reality thing. I went onto my line on my quad bike. I'd gone down an embankment, which I've done every day, and the bike went up in the air, landed on me. The next minute I know, I was in hospital. But what happened was, the crew that were filming the Osbournes got some of it. He bounced up. The security guard went to him and got him up and put him on the back of the bike, of another bike that the security guard was on, and drove him round to the front of the house. The emergency services had sent a helicopter for Ozzy, 'cause we live in the countryside and, you know, we've got like a small forest in our land. And they were sending a helicopter. But the security guards put him in the car and drove him to the hospital, and there was a helicopter on the way. And they told us that the worst thing you can ever do is move somebody after an accident like that. But Ozzy doesn't remember any of it, 'cause he was in shock and they weren't sure of his injuries. And then the doctor called me and then said about his arm, the main artery to his arm had been severed and there was no blood flow, no oxygen in his arm, and they're trying to save his arm. And then as soon as I heard that, I was just gone, you know? I just gone. And I got on a plane literally 2 hours later, flew to London. Everybody in England was just, you know, so devastated. The police met me at the airport. They got me to the hospital within, 30 minutes. And, everybody was rallying around Ozzy. And they put Ozzy in an induced coma for 8 days so that he would be out of pain. And when literally the first time I saw Ozzy, he was in a ward full of people that were in comas. And, tubes and bottles coming out of everywhere. And, one side of him, there was a bottle of blood where he was dripping. The other side, it's full of pee. And I'm just like, this is, a nightmare. I'm going to wake up in a minute. Well, I've known about the Parkinson's since 2003. I've had it all my life. And the Parkinson's I have, it's not like the Michael J. Fox one. Why does it cause her? It's called Parkin too. It's a gene that Ozzy was born with. And of course, Ozzy couldn't get anything normal. It's very rare. And its path isn't like normal Parkinson's that we all know. When the flu, what's you, okay? When Ozzy had his. Will you stop picking the nail polish off those bloody nails? Shut up. She's going to nag you to death. Never mind anything else. I know. Will you stop playing with my wedding? Stop it. But he'd had this condition since he was born. Born with it, but dormant. It just wasn't. Exactly. And then when you had this new fall, you were just going to the loo, right? You just. Yeah. When I fell on the floor, I remember thinking, you've done it now. So I said to Sharon, can you find an ambulance? Think I've broken my neck again. She was out that bed like a flash, running, screaming around the house. During these painful years, Sharon, the wife who never left Ozzy's side, had to completely change her life to care for him. From world tours and lively nights on stage, Sharon's life turned into a series of secluded days solely focused on caring for her husband. My life was completely turned upside down, Sharon shared. From someone always living in the spotlight, I suddenly became a wife and mother who had to take care of everything. But I never complained because I love Ozzy and we've always been together. This was not just a battle with illness, but also a battle against time. Both Jack and Kelly, Ozzy's children, could not help but share the helplessness they felt as they watched their father struggle with illness. Jack said that during those months, it was incredibly hard to do anything other than sit by his father's side, watching him fight through the pain. We lost the dad we knew, and in his place was a man worn out, frail, Jack shared. Kelly expressed similar feelings, but she also admitted that although feeling helpless, their family remained united and never abandoned one another. Oh, I was just really broken in every sense. Just every sleeve off every coat I own. Did you? Yeah. I said to Ozzy, if you ever do this to me again, I'm going to cut your hair off or I'm going to cut all your clothes. Would you rather have had your hair all cut off or the clothes? I wish I hadn't done the stupid thing that I did to get to want that area that happened. And that's the truth, because you never know what you've heard until you've lost it. And I thought I'd lost, big time. The new album, you got all these amazing people on it. Elton John, Slash, and others. You've been going through all this hell and yet you produced this great album. During those painful years, Sharon, the wife who never left Ozzy's side, had to completely change her life to care for him. From world tours and electrifying nights on stage, Sharon's life turned into a quiet existence focused solely on looking after her husband. My life was completely turned upside down, Sharon shared. From someone always in the spotlight, I suddenly became a wife, a mother who had to take care of everything. But I never complained because I love Ozzy and we've always been together. This wasn't just a battle against illness. It was a battle against time. Both Jack and Kelly, Ozzy's children, couldn't help but share their sense of helplessness watching their father struggle with his illness. Jack said that during those days it was hard to do anything except sit beside his father and watch him fight through the pain. We lost the father we once knew and in his place was a man who was exhausted and frail, Jack revealed. Kelly expressed similar feelings, but also admitted that despite the helplessness, their family always stayed close and never abandoned one another. On Ozzy's health, it's great to see the great man looking so well actually. But it's been a huge ordeal for the family, especially as Ozzy's been through this horrible stuff with his back, and Parkinson's obviously as well. As a result, he's not been able to do what he loves most, and that's touring, being a massive rock star. When asked what it's been like for Sharon, as the matriarch of the family, to be through these last few years with Ozzy like this, she responded, it's been, so many people can relate, who has a partner, whether it's the wife or the husband that's not well, it changes your whole life. You suddenly go, you're off in another direction and your life changes so drastically. She continued, it's really hard, especially in the summers because every summer Ozzy works and goes out and does festivals and we're traveling all over the world. And for the last 5 years, our life has changed dramatically. But on the other hand, it's great that I've had Ozzy at home for 5 years. He's driving me crazy. But we've been together every day for 5 years. Ozzy added, yes. I mean, I can't live without her. She can't live without me. Sometimes I love her, but I don't like her. And Sharon replied with a laugh, sometimes I say, I don't like you today, but I love you. Ozzy nodded, which is perfectly achievable. That's perfectly. I think a lot of that's unreasonable. There's always love. Always. That's what holds us together. Reflecting on their nearly 40 years together, Ozzy said, I don't think one day has gone by without me telling her. I don't think I never. I've spoken to her every day, no matter where I am. There were times I didn't want to speak, cause I was going to get an earful on the phone for being a bad boy. With a chuckle, he said, you blew the show again. When asked about his greatest moment, Ozzy answered, meeting Sharon. And I'm not just saying that. Sharon had to face challenges not only in caring for Ozzy but also in maintaining the image of their family in the public eye. She revealed that Ozzy underwent one final surgery after which all he wanted was to return home where he could live in peace with his family. This interview could be considered Ozzy's final conversation with the public before he was no longer able to appear on television. Although Ozzy's final years were a constant battle with illness, he always maintained an optimistic attitude, even though the exhaustion in his soul was unmistakable. Sharon, Jack, and Kelly could not hide their concern as Ozzy grew more fatigued, but they remained resilient by his side, helping him get through the most difficult moments. This reunion scene was not only a connection between a great family but also a metaphorical farewell that Ozzy could not express with words. It was the last time fans could see Ozzy appear on television in a public conversation, and at the same time, it served as a reminder of how time changes and how certain things in life cannot be changed. The Osbourne family had stood by each other through their hardships, and with their support, Ozzy was able to leave in peace knowing he was never alone. Reflecting on her career, Sharon said, that my career after 50 years would have ended that way. I mean, what did I want my legacy to be? I was fired because I was accused of being a racist. You and I could give, that's not the way we run our lives. When she got fired, she was turfed out by the cancel culture mob. Twitter was ablaze. They were joyful. They were gleeful. They had gotten rid of her. They had her fired for having an opinion. What was going through your mind during the first few days after that? She was asked. Sharon responded, listen, I don't scare easily, you know that. But some of the comments that were coming through on my social media were so horrific, about cutting my throat, my husband's, even the dogs. They wanted to kill my dogs. And then they started on Ozzy on his site and then my kids, and I just thought this is just insanity. She continued, I had the same thing. I went back to CBS and I said, not only can I not earn a living, but now I have to have 24-hour security because of you, and they go like, so what? Their lives were being put under threat by menacing people on social media, and they didn't know who was real and who wasn't. Also, Sharon's career basically ended. No one would touch her. She was labeled toxic. She was driven out in a race storm, and therefore, became untouchable. Sharon Osbourne, the resilient wife of Ozzy Osbourne, is a model of sacrifice in her family. However, throughout the 5 years that Ozzy battled illness, Sharon not only had to face the weakening of her husband but also bear the challenges posed by the public and the media. While many viewed the Osbourne family as a symbol of strength and love, few knew that Sharon had to fight in the shadows, not only against Ozzy's illness but also against personal crises and relentless attacks from the media. One of the biggest upheavals in Sharon's life came in 2021 when she was fired from The Talk, a show she had been a part of for 11 years. The main reason behind this was Sharon's vocal defense of Piers Morgan's freedom of speech after he was criticized for his differing views on Meghan Markle. While Sharon did not fully agree with Piers Morgan's opinion, she defended his right to express it without facing criticism or threats. Sharon tweeted her support for Piers Morgan amidst the controversy that erupted following his interview with Meghan Markle. However, for this act, Sharon was harshly attacked and forced to leave The Talk. You get fired for defending freedom of speech simply for offering a differing opinion, Sharon shared in an interview after the incident. She said, "It was the worst thing I could imagine. No one would ever think that a career of over 50 years would end this way. What's worse is that I was branded racist just because I didn't condemn Piers Morgan. The relentless criticism from the public and media left Sharon unable to stand her ground. She had to face a wave of anger not only from the public but also from colleagues in the industry. This completely changed Sharon's life. From a well-known figure to a woman shunned by society. The pain didn't stop at her career but also affected Sharon's family. Threats to her life from those who disagreed with her views began appearing on social media. She revealed, "Some people sent me horrific threats. They wanted to slit my throat, kill my children, even kill my dogs. And then they started attacking Ozzy, my kids, and my family." Sharon had to face these threats every day, requiring security to protect her entire family. "My job was gone, and now I couldn't make a living. They made me untouchable." The damage Sharon suffered came not only from losing her career, but also from the cruelty of the media and public opinion. Speaking about the psychological impact she endured, Sharon said, "For 3 months straight, I couldn't stop crying. It was a terribly difficult time in my life. I felt like I lost everything. My career, my reputation, and the respect of those around me. I never thought I would have to go through something like this." The career setback was not only a huge shock for Sharon, but also a blow to her self-esteem and mental health. However, it was with the support of her family, especially Ozzy, that Sharon was able to overcome these hardships. Sharon revealed that after being fired, she sought ketamine therapy and psychological counseling to heal the deep mental wounds. Piers Morgan was no stranger to the Osbourne family. He was a friend, a colleague, and a witness to the significant events in their lives. Having worked with Sharon and Ozzy for many years, Piers not only saw the changes in their careers, but also the struggles and pain the family endured. The relationship between Piers Morgan and the Osbourne family developed over many years. And in this conversation, he shared previously untold stories about the family. He said, "I have witnessed their transformation from a family living under the spotlight to a family facing invisible storms from the public." Piers was not only the interviewer, but also a friend who had been through every milestone with the Osbourne family. He watched Ozzy transition from a powerful man on stage to a weary individual fighting illness. For Ozzy, Piers was the last person to have a conversation with him as everything seemed to be nearing its end. Piers shared that this made him feel very honored as he knew he was one of the last people to witness part of this legendary life. Piers said, "This is an honor I will never forget. Ozzy is a legend and I know we had meaningful final moments together." One of the memorable things Ozzy said during his final interview with Piers Morgan was, "I don't complain because if I can still move, I'm not dead." This simple statement held a life philosophy that Ozzy had applied throughout his life. Despite illness weakening his body, he always fought, always found a way to rise again and continue life. These words were not just comforting for himself, but also an encouragement for those around him, especially his family and fans. Another clue Ozzy inadvertently gave was when he shared that he had completed it and just wanted to go home. "I'm done. I just want to go home," Ozzy said, his voice slow and full of emotion. This might seem like a simple statement, but within the context of the conversation and his health at the time, it was a clear farewell. Ozzy, a legend in the music industry, simply wished to return home where he could live in peace and be with his loved ones. This statement also reflected the exhaustion Ozzy felt as he faced a life full of challenges and pain. He no longer hoped for a complete recovery, but only wished for peace. It was a clear sign that Ozzy knew his time was running out. Even though he fought until the end, he understood that this battle could not last forever. Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy's wife, shared that the final years of her husband's life were not only about fighting illness, but also about facing the reality of Ozzy's departure. "Our family has changed, but we've stayed together every day for the last 5 years," Sharon confided. This statement not only reflects the love and unity of the Osbourne family, but also the pain of watching their loved one gradually slip away. Jack and Kelly, Ozzy's children, also shared their thoughts on the changes in his appearance. "The light in Ozzy's eyes gradually faded," Jack shared. "But my dad always remained strong even though he couldn't walk like before. He was always the head of the family, the one we looked up to." Kelly also mentioned how she could feel the change in her father, but she never gave up. She was always there for him when he needed her, even during the hardest moments. Additionally, Ozzy's words reflected the unavoidable truth about the ravages of illness. A legend, a man once a symbol of strength and energy, now faced the limits of his own body. However, what was surprising was that Ozzy never complained about his fate. He accepted everything that came his way, even if it was a tragic ending. "We never wanted Ozzy to suffer like that," Sharon shared. "But the important thing is he never felt alone. The family was always by his side." The story of Ozzy Osbourne is not just a story about illness and the struggles he had to overcome, but also about acceptance, resilience, and the unconditional love of the Osbourne family. Though Ozzy was no longer as strong as before, he remained a living legend in the hearts of his fans. And throughout his final days, Ozzy left us with lessons about life, resilience, and the love of family. Ozzy Osbourne was not only a music legend, but also a father, a grandfather, and an icon for a generation that loves rock music. When he passed away, it was not just the loss of a star, but the end of an era in the music world. However, even though Ozzy is no longer with us, his legacy lives on through his loved ones and the generations that follow. The Osbourne family, especially Sharon, Jack, and Kelly, are the ones who preserve and carry on the legacy that Ozzy left behind. Sharon, Ozzy's wife, was always by his side throughout his music career and during the most painful times of his life. Sharon shared that although their lives had changed a lot over the years, their family always maintained love and togetherness. "We never discriminated and I would never be silent just to protect the reputation," Sharon affirmed. This shows her loyalty not only to Ozzy but also to the family and the values they built together over many years. It was Sharon who helped the Osbourne family overcome psychological challenges as Ozzy faced Parkinson's disease and other serious health issues. "Our family changed, but we have stayed together every day for the last 5 years," Sharon shared. Although she had to endure the pain of watching her partner slowly weaken, Sharon remained strong and a solid support for Ozzy. Her love and sacrifice became a great source of encouragement not only for Ozzy but also for their children, Jack and Kelly. Jack Osbourne, Ozzy's son, has also grown into a resilient man, continuing his father's legacy. No longer Ozzy's little boy, Jack has faced personal challenges of his own, from illness to career struggles. After overcoming multiple sclerosis, Jack proved that no matter how difficult life gets, the spirit and resilience of the Osbourne family will always endure. "We lost the dad we knew and in his place was a worn-out frail man," Jack shared in his final interview. However, Jack also emphasized that the love and cherished memories Ozzy left behind will forever remain in the hearts of each family member. Kelly Osbourne, Ozzy's daughter, has also had her own share of challenges in life. But what's important is that she learned so much from her parents, especially from Ozzy. He was a better grandfather than her father. And that's not a criticism, but a journey of redemption, Kelly shared about Ozzy. This statement reflects Kelly's maturity in accepting and acknowledging her father's past mistakes. Nevertheless, she always respected and loved Ozzy, who helped her understand the value of family and unconditional love. When Ozzy Osbourne passed away on July 22, 2025, the music world lost a legend. However, his death was not just the end of a great career, but also the closing of a chapter in rock music history where Ozzy left indelible marks. Even though Ozzy is no longer on stage, his legacy, not only his legendary songs, but also the love, sacrifice, and resilience he passed on to his family, will forever live in the hearts of his fans and future generations. In his final days, Ozzy remained a shining star in the hearts of his fans despite struggling with debilitating illnesses. His last interview with Piers Morgan was not just a conversation about his music career, but also a conversation about life, what Ozzy had been through, and the values he left behind. Piers Morgan, as the interviewer, didn't just ask questions, but helped Ozzy share his deep reflections on life and death. "I'm honored to be the last person to interview Ozzy on television," Piers shared after the program ended. In this way, Piers Morgan was not just an interviewer, but a friend who witnessed Ozzy's final moments. He helped the audience see unknown sides of the music legend. From the struggles in his family life to the health challenges Ozzy faced, these reflections highlighted not only the pain Ozzy endured but also his extraordinary mental strength which he always maintained. Although Ozzy passed away, his legacy is not only in iconic hits like Crazy Train, Iron Man, or Paranoid. Ozzy's legacy is the story of a man who lived life to the fullest, who fought relentlessly to keep his family together, and who showed that no matter how harsh the world may be, love and resilience will always endure. Sharon, Jack, Kelly, and their loved ones will continue to protect and promote this legacy. For Ozzy, while one chapter of his life may have ended, that life will forever live on through music, through the love of family, and through the memories he left for the next generation. Ozzy's death is not an end, but a transition from a music legend to a part of history, a part of the memory we will never forget. It is a life that will never fade. A legend that can never be erased. No one can erase a legend. And although the media may have once knocked them down, they always stood up together. Ozzy may be gone, but his legacy will live forever in the hearts of those who loved him. And future generations will continue to pass on the stories of the man who changed the world of rock music. Thank you for watching this video about the life and legacy of Ozzy Osbourne, a music legend and family man. The stories of Ozzy and the Osbourne family will undoubtedly live on in the hearts of his fans. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on other exciting videos about music legends and touching stories. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts on Ozzy Osbourne and his family. We'd love to hear from you.